30-year-old, half Cherokee woman from Georgia, USA. When this happened, me and my fiance were living on a large farm in Maryland. We didn't use the farm, but rented a small house on the property and had the freedom to roam around. I was only 19 at the time, and the only people living in the house were me, my fiance, and a cat and a dog. Our cat was a crazy barn cat that I rescued because I can't say no to animals in need. And Tag was my faithful pit bull, a sweet, cuddly, timid cat. She weighs about 75 pounds and is afraid of her own shadow. Our farm was about 20 acres in size, and the driveway was about half a mile long. So when I came home from work, I would always go for a walk with my faithful dog, and I would take my fiance along too. Not because I was afraid to go out alone, but because he spent too much time playing and stretching. He used his legs. After arriving by car, it was a 12-mile drive through woods and farms before we finally rejoined civilization. So it's fair to say we were far from other people, except for the homeowner, of course. The first few miles were through open farmland, then a short stretch of woodland, then about a half mile of wheat fields, then another 2 miles of continuous woodland. Now that we know part of the layout, let's get to the really scary part. It started out like any other weeknight. My fiance and I got home from work and returned to our happy cottage with our happy pets. Our dog, Harley, wanted to go for a walk, so I calmed her down, got dressed for a hike, and asked my fiance if he could come along. He got home a little later than me and mentioned he saw one coyote in the field near our house. But as you all know, coyotes are primarily scavengers, especially here on the East Coast, so I wasn't too worried, and they defend themselves very well. I called him a wimp and then told Harley that we could leave and we'd be fine without him. Laughing to ourselves, we left the cottage and headed for the driveway. The sun was setting and the October air was beginning to cool, sweeping through the cornfields beside our long driveway. The corn was about 6 feet tall at this time of year, and I couldn't see through it. So I figured my fiance wouldn't see a coyote in that field and was just trying to scare me. Harley enjoyed spending time in the field, running back and forth between the cornstalks on her way up the driveway. And because she's such a timid girl, I knew she'd warn me off any moment of danger and run away. By the time I got to the end of the driveway, the sun had set, and the moon, which was already out, was shining high above the fields. It wasn't completely full, but there was enough light that I didn't need a flashlight or the light on Harley's collar. We turned left onto the road and crossed the first section of the field. The first field was soybeans. For those of you who don't know, this is a relatively low vegetation with nothing to hide in the distance except rabbits. We saw a few deer, but nothing particularly scary, and we relaxed and enjoyed our walk in the night breeze. I threw a stick and Harley brought it back, again and again, as do dogs and their owners. As we got to the first small group of trees, Harley stopped and lightly pecked my leg to indicate that there was something up ahead. It wasn't a coyote or a deer. It was a rabbit that had been hit by a passing car and was still struggling. I hate to say it, but there would have been no way it could have survived. And honestly, it might have attracted a pack of coyotes. I knelt down next to it and, as my family had taught me, quickly put it out of its misery with a knife, sending it on its way to the next part of life. Sad, but somewhat relieved, having only encountered a few deer and a poor rabbit. We carried on and reached the next field. This was a wheat field, and as the wheat was about to be harvested, it was quite high up, and you could hardly see anything, but the field was quiet, and Harley wasn't doing anything. So I figured if there were coyotes there, they had probably moved on by now. Now here comes the part you've all been waiting for. I don't know what it was, but here it is. We rounded the corner in the field and came into an area with wheat fields on our left and woods on our right. The air seemed to be still. Harley came towards me, and I heard rustling in the wheat field. I saw 3 tails circling back towards the woods. Coyotes. Eastern coyotes are small, but when they come in packs, they can be quite bold. Harley yelled, and I yelled, "Get out of here! Keep going!" The startled coyotes fled into the trees as I yelled, "Get out of here!" I was brave, but I wasn't going to go into the dark woods with a pack of coyotes and a cowardly pit bull. So I turned back and left before they could regroup. We started to turn back, but then we heard the rustling in the wheat again. Confused coyotes? I thought for sure, but they weren't. Harley just stood there, staring at the wheat. I whistled for Harley to come with me. In a high, ear-splitting, 2-fingered whistle, my whistle came back from the wheat, bringing her out of her thoughts for a moment. Suddenly, all the family legends I'd heard came back to me, and I expected a tall, thin creature to appear, but nothing came. I didn't smell any rotting flesh, and I felt no sense of fear. Instead, I was paralyzed with fear and curiosity. I whistled again, and the whistle came back, sounding so human, and yet so inhuman. Against all good sense, I asked, "Hello?" My voice answered, "Hello." With my hand on the knife, I said, "Show me yourself." Silence. No insects, no coyotes, no Harleys, just my breathing. Slowly, I heard the rustling again, and I turned on my flashlight. I shone it into the wheat field, and what I saw still baffles me to this day. An animal's eyes, this greenish-yellow light reflected back at me, but it didn't make sense what it related to. There was a girl, about 14 or 16 years old, crouching in a wheat field. She was wearing what I think was some kind of deer skin or fur, but was otherwise naked. She was very thin, and her skin looked as if it had never seen the light of day. Her hair was long and matted with wheat and leaves. Under any other circumstances, I would have called her beautiful, but at that moment, she was terrifying. We stared at each other for about a minute, but it felt longer, until we heard the unmistakable howl of a coyote from within the woods. We both turned our heads in the direction of the sound, and immediately heard her running through the wheat field toward it. At the same time, Harley ran towards our house, and I chased after her. We didn't stop running until we got to the driveway. Then I stopped, because I didn't want my fiancé to know I was running away from something. We still heard howling in the distance, so we started walking quickly again. We got back to the cottage without any issues, but I didn't tell my fiancé that, because I didn't want him to leave with the gun. She hadn't hurt me, so I didn't think it was right to chase her. I was woken up in the middle of the night by coyotes howling outside the cottage, which was unusual, but now I wondered if she was with the coyotes. About a month later, when I got home from work, I stopped thinking about that night and just imagined the last time I had to slam on my brakes for something on the road. It was dark, and when my headlights hit it, I saw its eyes glow green and yellow. It was a big coyote. He stared at my car for a while and then ran off into the woods. This may seem crazy, but I still wonder if it was her.